Two, please.
Yes, sir. Table for two. The woman said this in her usual carefree voice, but the words barely entered my ear. I lowered my cap even farther over my eyes and hunched over, trying to hide the reflection of my PC display. Looking at their clothes, it was unmistakable. The pair who had just arrived at the table on the other side of the restaurant were police officers on patrol. I'll get the tenchidonen.
Same here.
Very well. Tentu. That was not even close. It seemed like they just chose this place randomly during their patrol, but who likes eating in the same restaurant as the cops? Not only that, I think those two were the ones who were at the Big Bull Cafe, according to my faint memory. Patrol route for the police didn't include going into cafes, so someone had to have tipped them off somehow. I was not some sort of invisible man, so someone surely must have seen me hanging around a weird place at a weird time. Whoever that someone was, if they told the police that there was a shady looking kid around, there'd only be a handful of places they'd search. It was totally possible that those two were looking for me. That might also be the reason why that the policemen facing me were glancing at me now and then. What to think? That he'd take off and lead us to this wild goose chase. The policeman with the back to me suddenly spoke up. The cop looking at me waited a moment before replying to his partner. Well, it was just some big shots looking at maps all day who decided how wide our area of jurisdiction was to be. And there wasn't any public survey system in that area either. But I think that if you were hiding somewhere, it would have to be it then in that night joint.
The storekeeper there was a pretty sketchy looking guy too. Maybe we should grab him and rough him up a little.
Don't judge by appearances. He ended up having a pretty impressive history, didn't he?
Yeah, I guess. Man, I should have studied hard at the academy. I never thought I'd be assigned to the boonies like this.
Location has nothing to do with it. You just need to carry out your duties.
You're very right about that.
So they were looking for someone. But the owner, that Seralt guy, had an impressive history? I couldn't even begin to imagine.
What do we do after this? If we go by the book, we'd start the usual thing with questioning people.
His co-worker, facing me, took a sip of water and went quiet, as if in thought. I got the feeling that he was taking a good hard look at me. In my mind, I was praying that they gave up on the questioning and just went back to their nest. If we call in for reinforcements, we're just going to get laughed at. Looks like we have no choice. Anyway, our duty is to keep public order. Cracks in public safety begin in the smallest places. Even if it is just one boy, we can't just let him get away. My heart felt like it might jump right out my mouth. Now there was no mistake. They were tipped off by someone and they were looking for me. Lunar cities were nuts about keeping public order. Even in the Red Valley where suspicious guys wandered the streets, there was not even the faintest trace of any real danger. It was just a degenerate, pleasure-seeking town. Everyone knew just how risky committing an act of physical violence was in a place this small. After all, if you were deported by the residential management court, there'd be no question that you'd never be able to come back. The only people exempt from that form of punishment were people who were born on the moon. Even then, you committed second-degree murder or worse, it was not so certain. Of course, I wouldn't be subject to a penal code just because I ran away from home, but the overall zeal for maintaining public order would mean that I would be sent back home. After that, I'd probably be forced to report to a local facility every day until I become an adult. While that happened, I'd grow further and further away from the front line of the world and eventually become swallowed up by the masses. I fixed my darting eyes on my hands and thought desperately, how should I escape from here? If I grabbed my PC and ran, the plug would just get in the way. Do I unplug the adapter from my PC, then take off running with the unit? My identity could be given away by the adapter, but it was still better than just being captured. Or should I stay still right here and wait for them to leave? I'd like to do that if possible. But that officer staring at me seemed like he was just about to stand up and shout, "Hey, you!" to me at any moment. My cold sweat dripped on my keyboard. Wait, that woman wouldn't have ratted me out, would she? As I thought of this possibility, I was tortured by a desperate rage. But suddenly a shadow appeared on the table. It was the woman. Oh, what? You poured me a refill. I cursed her in my heart, wishing that she wouldn't draw their attention towards me at a time like this. My lowered face was totally flushed. But a piece of paper with words written on it was attached to the side of the cup she clunked down at the table. Get ready. I nearly raised my head, but the woman quickly left my table before I could make a mistake. I set my computer to mute and shut it down so they wouldn't notice that my OS was no longer running. I'll give up the adapter. I'll give up on the adapter. I quietly pulled the cord out of my main unit and confirmed the location of my bag. I already used the money I always kept in my jacket pocket at the cafe, so I'll use what I had in my back pocket. There was a line in the Old Earth Mafia movie that I saw at home that said that a $10 bill kept in your clothes was a business card to God. They certainly kept you well prepared. I quietly placed a 10 mul bill by my hand, perked up my ears, and waited for the right timing. The policeman had been staring at me non-stop. It was definitely suspicious of me. With a clang, the policeman started to get up. Kenshin, oh! At that very moment, the tension zone was placed on the counter loudly. What's wrong? Cop called out to his partner, who was now halfway out of his seat. Is it that guy behind me? Right after he said that, the woman's voice rang energetically throughout the room. Here's your tenjidon. Yeah. The one with his back to me turned his attention back to the food. The other one was looking at me, but because the woman was standing next to his corner seat, he was stuck in his seat and couldn't get out. Now was the moment. It was my only chance. Payments on the table. I said this as quietly as possible and left a 10 mul bill on the table. Hey, you wait! Officer clearly told me to stop, but I just gave him a sideways glance as I walked quickly towards the exit. It was only a distance of 3 steps, but it felt like forever. The yelling officer attempted to chase after me, but with the woman in his way, he couldn't get out. Yeah! The shrill scream came from the woman, who lost her balance after being pushed by the officer. She turned to the other officer, still sitting in this chair, and the piping hot tenchidon looked like it was about to spill. Acting out of natural self-defense, the officer caught the bowl in his hands. By that time, I had successfully exited the store. I took off running as if nothing else in that world mattered. Where am I? I spoke to myself out loud to make sure I wasn't in a dream. My throat was dry, though, so it was hard to speak. I cleared my throat a few times and took a deep breath. I hadn't the foggiest how I got here. After I left that store, I ran for my life toward the narrowest street I could find. I thought the police would be right behind me if I looked back, so I did nothing but run forward, not looking back a single time. After that, I must have found a handy-looking tunnel to hide in and then fall asleep inside. The pain throughout my body must have been from sleeping in the same position the entire time. Is this sewer? In general, any place made out of the moon's unique limestone was a public facility. This place had a cool, rough limestone floor, as well as matching walls. Between that and the sound of running water, this place had to be a sewer. Right then, I noticed a slight glow around me? Is that from the exit? It seemed like I was nearly passed out, and while I had no idea how long I'd been asleep, it must have been night now. The fact that the lamps were lit made me certain of it. Slowly and carefully, I began to walk. Suddenly, the road turned into a dead end. I could see the light source on the other side of the wall that I now faced, which was even taller than me. I let out a quick gasp because it looked as though something on the ceiling had moved, but the only things that were strangely wavering lights and shadows. Like a small bug attracted to the light, I took my bag off and climbed the wall. Then, when I saw what was on the other side of the wall, I let out a much bigger gasp. Holy. Before me was a huge, spacious atrium. I was near the top part of the atrium, and I could see more passages on its opposite and right sides. However, the most amazing part was a waterway passing through the base of the atrium. Clear water flowed through it like gentle rapids. Most of the sound of water must have originated there. The bottom of the reservoir glowed a bluish color. Occasionally, a fish would move, and a shadow on the ceiling would swim as well. As I gazed at this scene, amazed that places like this existed on the moon, I suddenly heard a rustling sound behind me. As I turned back in surprise, I forgot that I was balancing on the top of the wall. I immediately lost my balance and fell on my butt. Ow. Yeah, ow. All of a sudden, I saw a pitch black figure in front of me, rifling through my bag. Hey, whoa, what are you doing? Not only had my life's wages and labor gone into that PC, but it also carried the 1 billion mule dream that I knew I was going to make a reality. My body moved before I even had the time to think, and I tackled the figure. I threw myself at the shadow, covering its face with my left hand and aiming for its throat with my right. It was a technique that an immigrant from Earth taught me when I was growing up in a village full of missile heads. It was an incredibly effective technique, and it had to be. It was used by someone who came from a place where a failed government was replaced by military forces who had seized the UN supplies to be used as aid and would toss it around as if it were feeding animals. What? That was quite the sentence. Because I was looking at the light coming from the waterway, my eyes still weren't used to the darkness. The passage was narrow, though I couldn't miss. Not only that, but my opponent was way weaker than I had thought, tumbling over as soon as I connected. Right at that moment, I saw a small plank-like object fall onto the floor. The glowing object looked like it could be some sort of computer terminal. However, I was too busy thinking about punishing this idiot who was searching through my bag. On top of the bastard's body, who was either not resisting or too surprised too. I kept my grip on their throat and balled my other hand into the tightest fist I could make. Die! I froze, my fist still overhead. What? I raised my fist and was about to drop my iron hammer of fury. I began to speak. Woman? Right then, my vision went dark. I only realized that I'd been punched in the nose after I was woken up by being shoved in the chest on the side wall of the passage. Hitting me out of nowhere! What's wrong with you? The pitch black shadow, or rather the pitch black woman, began to speak. Black hair, black eyes, black clothes, black skirt, and black shoes. Her ankles peeking out from the hem of her skirt were black too. Even her stockings were black? That's kind of weird because, you know, the picture shows red eyes, black hair, dark green shirt, and white undershirt. What the fuck, game? At least get your... What? Ugh, already I'm like turned off by the game. Dressed in black from top to bottom, her white face seemed to float in the darkness. She stared at me with her thin black red eyes as she was staring at a bug. My head was seething, both from the shock of being punched and my anger at the outrageous situation. What the hell? You're the one who was going through my bag. What's wrong with you? That's not true. What will you do if this broke? The girl looked around, then, while still sitting, she reached out her arms and grabbed the plank-like device that fell earlier. She brushed away the dirt and began to use it, probably to see if it still worked. But anyway, what kind of mentality would lead someone to verbally attack me after hitting me? This is why I hated women. I'm just doing this because I was asked to. Why'd I have to be subjected to this? She seemed to mutter to herself. Disheveled from this fall, she gathered her long black hair into a bundle of darkness in one hand and straightened it neatly in an instant. It looked like a cable harness. Find them! Hurry up and get her! I'm in the side passage on the top level. Still seated, the girl began to talk. That thing might also work as a communication device. Who in the world was she? Was she searching for me? Or was she interested in what I was carrying? If that were the case, then I wouldn't hold back. Thankfully, I was in the dark, deserted, and hard to place. I might have lost a fight just now. but if I went at her with all my strength, I knew I could win. Maybe I should just take some naked pictures of her and post them online once I was done. What? What the fuck? I'm like the worst person ever. With that in mind, her arrogant attitude and expression might come in handy. Right as I went to move my back off the wall, I heard a voice. As soon as I heard the voice, I felt a dark urge in my chest disappear. I had heard that voice before. It was the voice of a woman from the Chinese restaurant who allowed me to escape. Hurry up, Lisa! The girl spoke curtly into the terminal. I feel like I'm losing brain cells just being around this guy. I was dumbfounded for a moment and then glared at the girl. Huh? The girl glanced at me, then quickly turned away. She acted as if she had heard a stray dog barking outside her window. She was clearly acting as in the intolerable way that only women can. Wow, alright. Making it seem as though no insult or abuse hurled her way could possibly affect her. While I was the type to get really angry when something I say was ignored, I was not even enough of an adult to suppress my irritation. I kept glaring at her, not caring how lame I might be looking. Still glaring at her, I pulled my bag towards me and made sure that nothing had been taken out. Nothing seemed wrong. Only there seemed to be something like a piece of dried macaroni at the bottom of my bag. It was particularly metallic, and a small green rice-sized light was flickering on and off. Around the time I figured out that it was a homing device, much like one you'd use on a pet dog, I heard footsteps from the other side of the passage. The woman who appeared shortly after was unmistakably the one from the Chinese restaurant. While she was irritating, she also saved me. And with a flash of light, she appeared. This is weird. So this was Lisa. Ooh, I found you. I told you reception is bad around here. The girl in black replied. But I found you. It took a little while though. The woman wiped her forehead, which made her finally realize that her hair was in a mess. I'm amazed that you got all the way in a place like this. Were you here the whole time? While the woman talked, she took a flat device from the sitting girl. After inputting a few commands, the macaroni-shaped light in my hand stopped blinking and turned yellow. Is this a tracking device? Not answering the woman's question, I asked one back. Yep. I put it there where you're bending over to plug your adapter in. You were so busy charmed by my legs, so easy to do. I wasn't charmed by anything. I shot back. This only caused the seated black-clad girl to shoot me a disdainful look over her shoulder. Well, I apologize for making a home device in your bag without asking. No matter what the reason, it isn't a nice thing to have happen to you. Her easily offered apology left me no room to complain. Only there was no way that someone who put a tracking device in someone else's bag could be an upstanding person. Considering this, I started to feel like her saving me at the restaurant might have been due to some ulterior motive. In any case, I was in the back corner of a deserted sewer. What I had just thought of doing in my rage to the annoying girl in black might now be done to me. You see, geniuses and the rich were gathered in the lunar cities, and most of them could be called extremely talented. However, they often said that the line between brilliance and madness was paper thin. Why am I talking about this right now? There was no shortage of stories along the lines of mad scientists performing unspeakable experiments on a nightly basis, or of wealthy perverts committing sickening acts one after the other. I looked up at the woman, the shaking reflection, the water dimly reflecting upon her face, and grabbed my bag with one hand. I was careful enough to spread my money across different pockets, so of course I carried at least a small weapon. But regardless of gender, the woman over there was taller than me. Gravity was weak on the moon, so if you thought about it as simple action-reaction, there wasn't much difference here between a man and woman's punches and kicks. In that case, it came down to either wrestling or stiffening your body in one place and slamming it into your opponent while conserving as much physical energy as possible. That was where the length of your limbs made a difference. Not only that, there was someone right next to me who most certainly wasn't on my side. I recalled the atrium as I looked over it. With my leg strength, couldn't I jump over the wall all the way over to the other side? Or if I made sure to land in the water, wouldn't I be okay? While my mind was whirring through the possibilities, I gulped and said the following. Why are you doing this? Was your saving me a trap? I wasn't sure if I should say that much, but before I could make a decision, the woman spoke first. The woman smiled as if she had stumped and bent her head to the side. She then continued. For fun? My back stiffened with the shudder. I had the feeling that I was gonna get killed.